All right, we are going to talk about comparing and ordering integers. Remember, we talked about that an integer is any positive or negative whole number. Positive or negative whole number. All right. So make sure you have your notes with you. We're on Learning Target 8, comparing rational numbers on a number line and inequality. All right. So that first number line that you have there, comparing and ordering, I want you to write write these arrows underneath that number line. So numbers are arranged from least to greatest on the number line. So the furthest a number is to the right, the bigger the numbers become, and the further it is to the left, the smaller it becomes. So if we're talking about positive numbers, that's very easy to understand. But once we get to the negative, this is going to help you out a lot. So please, on that initial number line right there, that first one, put an arrow, and then write numbers get bigger, and then draw another arrow, and then write numbers get smaller. Okay, that's going to help you out as we go along. Okay. All right, so this is not in your notes. Let's just talk a little bit about it. If I want to use a number line to help me order numbers from least to greatest, especially if I have both positive and negatives, it's going to help me out. So if I look at this one right here, first thing I'm going to look at are my negative numbers, because I know that those are going to be smaller. So if I look up here, here is my -4 and here is my -2. So my smaller number is actually -4 because it is the furthest away from 0. So that's why it is the smallest value. Okay, followed by -2. Then I've got my 0. Then I'm going to look at my positive numbers, 1 and 6. Okay. All right, let's look at all of my negatives here. So they are all negative, so I know I'm just looking at negative numbers. So the one furthest to the left, if you look here, here's 10, so -13 is going to be here. So that is my smallest value because it is furthest away from 0, okay? Followed by -4, -2, and -1. So do you notice as I'm going further into the negative section, further away from 1, actually the larger the number, the value, it's actually a smaller value because it is the furthest away from 0. Okay? All right. So that again was not in your notes. So let's move to what's in your notes now. So let's compare these numbers. First I want you to plot them, and then we're going to list them from least to greatest. So I'll do one with you. So we've got -5 here. This is -5, then 7, and 0, and -8, 3, and then a -1/2. So -1/2 is going to be right there. So once we've plotted them, then you're going to put them in order from least to greatest. So you're just going to look at the number line here. So that's -8, -5, -1/2, -0, or sorry, 0. You cannot have a -0 or a +0. It's just 0, 3, and then 7. Okay? All right, so make sure you have that on your notes. And why don't you go ahead and do the next one by yourself. Okay, pause the video and come back and check. All right, check your answer. Remember, our smallest value is actually going to be the largest negative number, okay? Because again, it's the furthest away from 0. All right, so that is plotting on a number line and putting them in order from least to greatest. But now we're going to compare them using an inequality. That word inequality simply means the greater than or less than sign. Greater than or less than sign. Okay? So if I ask you to write an inequality, you should know that that means use a greater than, less than sign. Okay? So if I have positive numbers, that makes it, hello, so simple. Obviously 5 is greater than 3 and 7 is less than 9. That's very simple. However, once we start getting into negative numbers, that picture that we have at the top is really going to help us. So if I have a -4 and a -1, well, look where -4 is and -1 is. Remember, the furthest it is to the left, the smaller it is. So that means -4 is less than -1. And let's try the next one. So if I have -3 and -8, which is going to be about right there, -8 is the smaller one, right? So that means -3 is greater than -8. Okay? All right, you have two problems on yours. You go ahead. You have these two problems, -5, -8. All right, pause the video and do these two problems, and then come back with your answer. All right, did you get those two? Obviously, this one was pretty easy because you have a positive number. Obviously, any positive number is going to be greater than any negative number, okay? All right, so keep this in mind, this part right here. Hopefully you drew that on the top of your notes, and you are going to work on, oops, I think you do have those. The next 9 problems on the bottom there, okay? So you're going to work on those 9 problems, and then come back when you have your answers. All right, check those answers. Hopefully I got them all right, and I didn't make a mistake. Remember, use that diagram at the top. The further it is to the left, the smaller it is. The further to the right, the greater it is. Okay? All right. Let's move on. All right, so now we're going to do some more graphing. So let's just look at this one. Again, this is not on your notes, but if you look at that, I want you to decide on 3 numbers that are more than -4 but less than 2. How do you think about that? Well, let's plot what we're looking at. So I want a number that's more than -4. So here's -4, but less than 2. And this is 2, right? So I want any number in between here. So 3 numbers could be any of these. I could have -1, -2, -3. I could have +1. I could have 0. Any of those would work. Okay? So any of those would work. Okay? All right. So let's look. So we're going to compare again. Let's see. So plot the 2 points. So we've got 5 and -7. Okay? So I want you to decide, is 5 greater than or less than -7? Obviously, it is greater than. Okay? All right. That's kind of doing what we just did. Now let's look at the new part. Let's see. This is not on here. Let's see. Do you have this one? Oh, yeah, you had this one. Sorry. All right. So if you look at this one, it says, looking at the number line above, which integer will be furthest to the right? -5 or -7? -5 or -7? Which one would be furthest to the right? That would be -5. Okay. Then your next one says 3 is greater than -2. Which one is furthest to the right? That would be 3 again. Okay. All right. All right, this next part on your notes, it says write a true inequality to describe the number lines below. So all it's doing is having you write an inequality. So you're going to use a statement, write it using a greater than or less than sign. So first of all, you need to look at the 2 numbers given. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is green, so is this one. So I'm looking at -3 and I'm looking at 4. So is -3 less than or greater than 4? It is less than. Okay? Another way you could write this is if I had 4 and -3. If I just turned them around, well, 4 is greater than -3. So you could have written this 2 different ways. Both of them, you're going to write down the numbers, -3 and 4, and then you're just going to put an inequality, a greater than, less than sign in between. All right? I'm going to do one more with you. So if I look at this one, my 2 numbers given are -6 and 2. So if I have -6 and 2, -6 is greater than or less than? It is less than 2. Or if you wrote it the other way, 2 is greater than or less than -6. It is greater than. Okay? All right, you do this one by yourself. Write it the 2 different ways for me. Okay? Pause the video and come back with your answer. All right, check your answer. It should have been those 2. Okay? All right, now let's look at kind of like a real world situation when we're talking about temperature, okay? So on Thursday, the temperature outside was negative 10 degrees, and this is on your notes here. It's negative 10. And on Friday, the temperature outside was negative 8. So which day was the colder day? Which day was the colder day? So if I think about it, if I'm at negative 10 or negative 8. So when we're talking about temperature, you might kind of want to think of like how far away it is from 0 on a number line. Okay, if I'm at 0 here, here's negative 8. Here's negative 10. Which one is colder? It is whichever one is further away from 0. So negative 10 degrees is the colder day, and that was Thursday. Okay? And if I want to write an inequality, again, here's negative 10, here's negative 8. Negative 10 is less than negative 8. Okay? Okay, write that down in your notes. And why don't you go ahead and do the next one by yourself? Okay? On Monday, the temperature outside was negative 3, and on Tuesday, it was negative 7. Which day was colder? And write an inequality to show that. Pause the video and come back with your answer. All right, check that answer. Again, this whole time, writing that number line really might help you. Or if you look above my smartboard, I've got that number line up there that will always help you, especially when you get into the negatives, okay? All right, so next part, here's your exit slip. You have 5 questions. You've got 2 about temperature, and then 3, 4, and 5, you're just going to write an inequality. Please write down the number for number 3, 4, and 5 with the inequality. Do both, okay? All right, I hope you understand this lesson. If you have some questions about it, please ask me, and I'll be looking for your exit slip. Have a great day, kids.